Coming to you from Farmer Dave's Kitchen here in Drake, Massachusetts, I'm Stacy.
I'm Denise.
And we're here to help you prepare your share.
In this VEGISODE, we're visiting the Cabbage Patch. First, we're going to run through all of the impressive health benefits of cabbage.
Cabbage is part of the brassica family, which is loaded with antioxidants and anti-cancer compounds.
Awesome. And then did you know, Stacy, I'm sure you did, that cabbage is actually richer in vitamin C than oranges?
Yep.
I didn't know this. So vitamin C helps repair the normal wear and tear that we do to our bodies from just everyday activity, any of those silly things we end up doing, and of course, aging.
Cabbage is also brain food. It provides vitamin K, which helps protect the covering that are on your nerves. This in turn helps lower the risk of different dementias, Alzheimer's, and things like that.
I need all the help I can get. I'm eating more cabbage. So cabbage also has your bones covered. It contains calcium, magnesium, and potassium.
It's also rich in fiber, sulfur, and beta carotene. This is another vegetable that keeps your peepers healthy.
Now in front of us we have Napa cabbage, we have beautiful green cabbage, and then of course the red cabbage. Napa cabbage, also called Chinese cabbage, looks like a cross between a cabbage and a romaine lettuce. It has a mild but more delicate flavor to it. You do have to be a little more careful with its leaves, but this also makes it perfect shaved or thinly sliced for salads.
I really like it like that. That's one of my favorites, actually. It can be sliced thinly and added near the end of stir fries and soups, and it will preserve its crunch. If you have somebody in the family who's not a cabbage fan, this is a nice variety to use because it is more mild. It's also traditionally the one that they use to make kimchi with.
Delicious.
Now, green cabbage is the next one. This one is very compact and heavy for its size. It's very hearty. It holds up really well in slaws without getting soggy, and it's good for the longer cooking dishes, which is why this one and actually red cabbage you'll see a lot of times in boiled dinners. Something else this is good as is it's really good roasted. I like cutting it in either wedges or you cut it into slabs, and I call them steaks. I know it's not meat, but
a cabbage steak?
A cabbage steak. That's your teaser. We'll be covering that in a little while.
I'm intrigued. Okay. All right, so the red cabbage is more of a beautiful magenta. So this is also very hearty, again works well in slaws, soups, and for braising.
I really love red cabbage braised. It's really delicious.
It's gorgeous.
So on to storage. You're going to store your green red cabbage whole in your refrigerator. If you happen to cut it and use half of it, make sure you wrap the other half in plastic wrap. It'll keep the edges from browning on you. Once you do that, try and use it within the week, the one that you wrapped. The whole head will probably last you longer than a week. As long as it's kept in the refrigerator. When you go to use it though, the outer leaves will probably wilt and brown a little bit. So you want to make sure before you go to use it, just peel off the outer leaves. There's plenty of cabbage here. These are kind of more of a protection, I think. So you're going to peel those off.
It's its little house.
It's its little house. Little insulation. And then you're going to have fresh leaves right in the middle so you can go and use it like that.
Beautiful.
So I think it's really nice like that.
Nice. Excellent. And then same thing with the red cabbage as well.
Yeah, that will peel right off. And even the Napa, if you don't get to the Napa right away and you leave it out, just peel off those outer leaves, because those are going to be the ones that are going to wilt first, and you don't have to throw out the whole cabbage. Just start peeling it off, and the core of it, I mean, those are so huge. The core of it is probably going to give you plenty for a salad anyway, so it's really not that much of a loss.
Okay. So speaking of Napa cabbage, we know that this one's a little more susceptible to the wilting, and if you're doing a stir fry or a slaw, you want to store this in a paper towel lined resealable bag. Again, you guys know the drill with this one by now. And then it'll be ready for you to go during the week. It'll stay nice and fresh.
It'll stay nice and crisp like that.
Crisp, exactly.
Which is really, really big.
That's perfect.
Now, as far as long-term storage, the easiest way to store some cabbage before winter is actually freezing.
I didn't know you could know. I did not know.
Huh?
No, I'm learning something new.
Last year, I had heard of a member doing this, a CSA member, so I decided to try it myself last year. So I actually bought, I think 6 heads of cabbage, and I'm like, I'm just going to put this, I lost my head. So I'm going to put this up and try it. So you have to blanch it. We've covered blanching before. The reason that you blanch it is so that you don't completely lose the texture on it. It kind of sets it, it gets rid of any microorganisms on the outside, and that way it's not going to be crispy when you defrost it, like salad crispy that you would want, but it's perfect to put in stir fries, it's perfect to put in soups. It works really well like that. So I'm going to show you how to break one down right now. We're going to take one head. Let me move that out of the way. Now, when you go to do this, I'm trying to think of a good way to show this on camera for you. I'm going to slide that over. So it's very easy for this to roll. It's round, all right? And it's very easy for you to cut yourself. So you're going to go in with the knife tip, and because it's coming down on that side, I'm going to start on that side.
Okay.
So I'm going to go into the middle, just like this. Keep fingers curled.
Got it.
Okay? And then I'm just going to go in and down.
It's tough.
Yep, this is a tough one. And then I'm just going to wiggle it, little bits at a time. See, now I got through the core on that side. So now I'm going to flip it. And again, where I stopped it, I'm going to go straight in. Hand over here, hand is away from the blade, fingers are away from the blade. And I'm not cutting towards myself, cutting to the side. Down we go, wiggle it out, down a little bit more, wiggle it out, okay? So we've got about half of it, maybe 3/4 of it done at this point. So now I'm just gonna go in, put it right in where it's not cut. You can hear it going through. And then see, we've gotten all the way to there, except for the core. Go back in, down, right through. So now, there you go.
Beautiful.
Finger's still intact. So that's your half. This core, when you go to blanch and freeze, you're gonna keep that intact. That's gonna hold the entire cabbage together. So now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna put the flat side down so it's not wobbly. And I'm going to cut it into a 1/4. So right in the middle, point of the knife, straight down. Hand over here, fingers away from the blade. It won't quite go all the way down, so I'm going to wiggle it and take it out. Go back in. There we go, we went through the core. Flip it around, knife blade right in the middle, hand to the side, back down again. It's apart. So now you have this beautiful 1/4 of a cabbage. This is a good sized cabbage. Some of them are much larger. I would probably cut that in half, and you might want to consider cutting each half maybe into 1/3 or even 1/4. You kind of have to judge that when you get it home.
Is this one good in 1/4 though?
I think this one's good in 1/4. I think
Perfect.
this one will be fine. I think if we had one that was, because some of the ones we got at the end of last season actually
Were huge.
were really, really pretty huge. So I think this is fine like this. So you have a pot of boiling water on the stove, okay? You're gonna have cold water with ice. Ours is melted at this point. Pretend there's ice there. Then, empty bowl colander. What you're gonna wind up doing, spider, or you could use tongs or anything like that. You're gonna take your 1/4 of a cabbage, you're gonna put it in the boiling water. Probably 60 to 90 seconds. If you have larger quarters, then you may want to go to 2 minutes, but 60 to 90 seconds should be a fine blanching time. When that's out, take it, you're gonna put it in the ice bath. You'll leave it in there until you can touch it. And if you can touch it and it's not hot, then it's cool enough.
And again, we're stopping the cooking process.
That's exactly what we're trying to do. Then drain it out a little bit, and then what I do is I put it in this colander with the cut side down, because once you boil it, we didn't have the water boiling, these layers are going to separate a little bit and water is going to get in it. So by doing this, you're making sure that that water all drains out, and then when it drains out, you can pat it dry. Then you're going to put it into the freezer bag.
Perfect.
You can probably fit, you might be able to fit 4 wedges in here actually. I would pack it in pretty tight. Close it almost all the way, and then the method Denise and I have showed you before with the straw. Put the straw right in the corner, suck the straw, air comes out.
The air right out.
Then just do the close, and you've got it in there. Put it in the freezer. It's going to be perfect for when you make soups and things like that. If you have a food saver, that's even better. But I've had no problem with that. I used the straw all last season, and I had 6 bags of cabbage, and we put cabbage in everything. So
that's perfect.
Yeah.
Now, I noticed that you kept the core in when you did the wedge. You did not remove this.
No.
Why?
Keeps it together.
Okay.
When you go to blanch and all those layers start separating, if you don't have that core there, you're going to have confetti.
Excellent.
In there, so that's why I leave the core in.
All right.
So you can remove the core when you go to holds it together. Yes.
Hold it together.
So when you go to cook with it after you defrost it, then you cut out the core and then you can shave it and then you can add it to things.
Beautiful. Excellent.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. Now for cooking. So you
What's
promised
first?
something about a cabbage steak?
Oh, cabbage steaks. Here we go. Actually, you know what? I will leave. Maybe I can use this and the other one for cabbage steaks.
Beautiful.
So. This is what it winds up looking like.
Oh, cabbage steaks.
So they're like cabbage slabs, I suppose. Slabs. So basically you're going to take your cabbage and you're going to slice it into long pieces, stem side down. What I would do with this one is trim your stem so you don't have that sticking up like a tree trunk. And then you're going to have it like this.
Okay.
So then you would wind up, you're basically going to stabilize it. And it's the same like the other one. You're going to go in with the tip of your knife. Just like that. You're cutting away from your fingers. I'm holding it like this. You're going to go in and down. In and down.
Perfect.
Okay? It's one of the reasons I like this knife is because it is so long. So when you're cutting the bigger vegetables, you can kind of get in and have a little bit more leverage.
Makes sense.
So on this one, I'm going back in to where I was. Hand right there. Down. In and down. I think I still have a little piece in there though.
A little piece.
And that's probably right by the core actually. I can feel it. So I'm just wiggling it. You're better off doing this little bits at a time.
Right.
And then there won't be as much of a problem. So there we go.
There you have it.
So I'm leaving the core in to cook it because it is going to keep it together.
Okay.
The only thing that would probably be better, but we forgot them today, is some toothpicks.
Oh, okay.
If you go in with the toothpicks, just on those outer layers, as you can see after we roasted them, the outer layers started separating as they were cooking.
It looks beautiful though.
Having those in there will just kind of keep it together a little bit more. So that's how you cut them.
That's fantastic. These really look delicious. So now what we did with these, brush them with a little olive oil and a little salt and pepper.
That's
Lovely.
not olive oil, is it?
It's not olive oil. That might be a little bit of bacon juice. And we're talking about steaks, so let's add some bacon to our steaks.
Here you go, ma'am.
Beautiful.
We have seasoning.
All right. So you can certainly do the olive oil, but we all like our bacon around here. So we're just going to cover this little guy in this delicious bacon juice. Bacon. Salt, pepper, a little bit of garlic.
Yep, it's granulated
So that's
garlic.
a granulated garlic. Okay.
Italian seasoning.
A little Italian seasoning. Okay, a little heavy-handed on that side.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's all good. It's gonna taste great.
I usually do because it's going to be in there for a while. These will take probably 30 to 40 minutes. The cabbage is pretty tough cooking. So I would season one side heavily is usually how I do it.
Okay.
And then the other side I pretty much leave blank. And
Okay.
then when we wind up getting to a point where we flip it, if the other side looks like it needs a little extra
Just go
bacon
back
or
in
olive
there.
oil, I'll go in and put it on. But most of the time, once you start cooking these, the layers do start separating, and some of the olive oil or the bacon fat
it's gonna
seeps through.
seep
so
through.
you may have enough on the other side where you don't need to.
Okay. That makes perfect sense.
I like to go heavy-handed on that side to do it. So 30 to 40 minutes at about 400 degrees. And really, you can play with your seasonings on this. You can use just about anything.
Okay.
The other thing that I like doing is the wedges. The wedges are a lot of fun, and then they wind up looking like an iceberg wedge when you go to a restaurant and you have like the iceberg wedge.
It's going to look really fancy on your dinner plate, and it really wasn't fancy at all.
So we have this, and one of the ways that I do like serving this, we have it cooked like this.
Beautiful.
And then I'm going to go in with, my hands. We have some chopped cooked bacon here. You can put some chopped cooked bacon
Delicious.
on it. Just just like this. And then we have some blue cheese here, so I'm just gonna go in with a little blue cheese.
This looks so good.
And the blue cheese and the bacon really do work with this because the cabbage has a little bit stronger flavor. Even though the roasting does mellow it, it stands up to the strong flavor of the bacon and the...
Right.
So, and that's what you have it. And then you could do some dressing if you want a vinaigrette or anything like that, drizzle that on it. Also, we were talking about this earlier. Brilliant idea. If you made these the night before,
right,
and you have some left over the next morning, how good would it be to have some of the chopped bacon on it and then do a sunny side up egg?
So good.
And put the sunny side up egg on it. And then you have some veggies with your breakfast, and the yolk when you cut into it is gonna almost be a dressing for it. So that would be a really, really good way to use it up.
Delicious.
Yeah.
I might put an egg on it for dinner. All right, that's amazing. Thanks, Stacey. So now for something cool, crunchy, and a little refreshing. So you can use the top part of the green cabbage or the Napa cabbage. We're gonna slice it thinly. So we've done the green cabbage, so let's show you. Thank you, Stacey, for giving me the easy one to cut. I appreciate that.
No emergency room trips here, no emergency room trips.
She knows I'm the newbie. Okay, so this little guy, we're gonna go about halfway in. Cut it down the center. All right. Kind of gather him up a little here. And then we just really want this top portion. This is what we're going to use. And we're going to set the other part aside and use him later for something completely different. Okay. He looks awfully pretty. All right. So, and then this way you're able to actually separate this and make this much more manageable to cut. Okay, so again, keeping your fingers in, and we're just gonna slice these beautiful, thin, manageable strips.
Is the key.
Yes. All right, so we're gonna get that all cut up. That looks beautiful.
That's
excellent.
So pretty.
That's gorgeous. Okay. So now that we have this cut, and like we said, this is the more delicate, we can actually put this in a salad. So we're gonna go ahead.
Now you could do a bowl if you wanted to. We're just gonna do a serving here, so we just have this pretty flat plate.
Absolutely. Yeah, so you could put this in a bowl, put a little bit of dressing, toss it, and then plate it. Honestly, whatever works for you, whatever's easier for you, go for it. So we do have this, and we're gonna do a little bit of a dressing. We can do our chopped bacon. You could add some sliced apple to this, which would be really delicious.
Oh, that would be delicious.
Craisins, whatever you honestly have, whatever you like to put on your salad, go for it. We also have a vinaigrette. This is a citrus vinaigrette, so you can use lemon or lime, whatever you prefer. A little bit of olive oil. We have some honey mustard that's in this. We have local honey, and if you guys love local honey, you can obviously get that either in the Farmer Dave farm stands. You can also actually order that and receive that when you go to pick up your share. So very easy to get your hands on some local honey.
I have a honey problem, so.
Yes, and it's raw honey, which means all of the minerals and the nutrients are still in it. All right, we're just gonna drizzle. Oh gosh, yeah, that looks good.
That looks delicious.
really
Now, a little point about that vinaigrette and about the Napa cabbage. If you want to use the whole cabbage, you can. The tail end of the cabbage is a little tougher than this. Obviously, this looks just like lettuce. You can tell on the plate. Oh, that would be really good like that. And also the vinaigrette, because it does have the mustard in it, it has the vinegar, the apple cider vinegar. It has the olive oil in it. Just think of it as almost a massage salad, because when you have tougher cuts like cabbage, if you go in and you toss this ahead of time, so even if you were to make a salad with the green cabbage, which is even heartier than this, dress it first with your vinaigrette, and that acid is going to help soften and break things down. So if you do have somebody in the family that does not like cabbage because they just don't like, it's too crunchy, it's too, maybe they taste more bitter. You know, it's just like cilantro. Some people pick up on more bitter than anything. So then you can turn around and add a little bit more honey, which will balance that bitter that they're tasting. And also the acid is going to break it down and kind of soften it a little bit. So it might make it a little bit more palatable to them.
I think that's fantastic. And who doesn't like bacon?
And who doesn't like bacon? Bacon really kind of like takes care of everything.
It's right over the edge.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, so I think they should try a salad, try a steak, pick up some cabbage and freeze it. Try the freezing process, and that way when you make anything this winter, you have the cabbage.
Absolutely.
And see if you like it.
That's good.
Okay.
So we want to try a soup next.
Yeah, we need to reset really quick. We'll be right back.
Our last dish is a soup. The weather's getting a little bit cooler and it is soup season. This is our tangy cabbage and kielbasa soup. The best part about the soup is the ability to adjust it to your family's taste. So we'll make some suggestions along the way.
Yep, definitely.
As to how to make this perfect for you and your family.
Okay, the lineup of the ingredients. So we have a couple tablespoons of olive oil. We have a package of kielbasa cut into half moons. 2 cups, this is a little bit less here, of medium diced onion. Some garlic cloves that I am going to grate in with my grater. We have some red pepper flake.
Okay.
Salt and pepper.
And then 1/8 to 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. 2 cups of carrots diced, which we've got there, perfect. A package of chicken stock. You could use a low sodium veggie stock. You could use something that's homemade, really whatever you like. 4 heaping cups of thinly sliced green cabbage.
And the thinly sliced is like this. You want it to be something that you pick up in your mouth with the spoon, pick up with a spoon to put in your mouth, and not having it fall right out again.
Beautiful. And then obviously we're gonna need water, just enough though to cover the cabbage. Salt and pepper to taste, honey to taste when serving.
You'll get an explanation on that
Exactly.
at the end. In a large soup pot set over medium-high heat, saute your kielbasa in olive oil until the edges are browned. That's where the flavor is. Then you're gonna remove it to a bowl, add a little bit more olive oil if you need it, and you're gonna saute your onions. Let them go maybe about halfway so they're kind of translucent, like that, that whiteness is gone, so they almost look like they're getting soft again. At that point, you're gonna add red pepper flake or not. It's entirely up to you. We are gonna temper this with honey at the end, so you can always add a little bit of the red pepper flake and then kind of balance it out at the end.
Okay.
The garlic, you're gonna just grate in, so you have small pieces, or you can smash it and just mince it really fine on the cutting board. That would be fine too. Let all that cook for a few minutes. Then you're gonna add mustard. This is a Dijon mustard. You can use whatever mustard you have in your refrigerator. I've used stone ground mustard, I've used spicy mustard. Doesn't really matter.
Use up what you have.
Use up what you have. Don't go out and just buy something.
Awesome.
Just use what you have. So you're gonna put that in and you're gonna really stir that well. You want all those onions coated in the mustard, and you're gonna let it kind of cook down just a little bit, and it's really gonna adhere to the onions. It's gonna look nice.
Delicious. I'm getting hungry already. So now it's time for the apple cider vinegar. So this is where your tang factor comes into play. So it's also where once you put it in, you're gonna deglaze the pan. So all of those brown bits from your kielbasa, from the onion, from the garlic, you're
even from the mustard, because once we let that mustard cook, even though the mustard is a vinegar-based condiment, it still has some sugar in it.
Okay.
So that's going to get really sticky as well. So that'll come up.
That's beautiful. So you're going to be able to deglaze, get all of those bits and pieces up from the bottom and the sides of your pans. Once all the bits are scraped off the bottom of the pan, you're going to add your carrots and you're going to add your stock. Mix this really well. We're going to covering it up and we're going to bring it to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, reduce and just let this kind of chill out and simmer. About 10 minutes?
About 10 minutes, and check your carrots. My carrots are cut fairly small, so those 10 minutes they should start to get soft. They don't have to be completely tender because there's still a little bit more cooking time.
Okay.
But 10 minutes, check them and see, and that way if they're a little too big, you can let them cook just a little bit
longer.
Give them
a few more minutes.
A few more minutes, yeah.
That makes sense.
So then at that point, you're gonna add all your slivered cabbage. This is going to come up really high in the pot. So what I would do is add maybe half of it, stir it, let it cook for a few minutes, and then maybe add the other half. It doesn't shrink quite as much as kale or some of the other greens does, but they do shrink down somewhat. And at that point, you're gonna cover it and let it simmer for about 20 minutes. Now this is personal preference. You're gonna check the cabbage for tenderness. Some people like the cabbage really cooked down, so it's almost like supple, like sauerkraut would be. They like it like really, really soft. I like my cabbage to have a little bit more of a bite to it, so it's a little more crunchy. And something else to consider, this is gonna make a large pot of soup, so at this point, having it on the crunchy side, if you're dishing it out and reheating it at work, it's going to soften the cabbage a little bit more each time.
I see where you're going
and
with
it's also going to be sitting in the stock, which is going to cause it to soften naturally, even though it's in your refrigerator. So I would go on the more of the al dente side, as if you were talking about pasta, and I think that would be like a better choice.
That's a great way to explain that.
Also at this point, once your cabbage cooks for about 20 minutes, slide the rest of the ingredients back in. You took this out because you don't want that to overcook, because then it just winds up being flavorless if you let it sit in there the entire time. So add that back in and stir that up again, and then taste it. And this is where you adjust your seasonings at this point.
Excellent. So we're gonna ladle the soup out, stir in a little honey. We want to try this?
Yeah.
Okay. Bowls, spoons, ladle. Let's go.
There we go. So as you can see, there's a lot of cabbage in here.
If we had a studio audience, we'd need a sign that said ooh, ah right now.
Ooh,
okay.
Ah.
Okay, so we do kind of have a studio audience. It's our illustrious director. So here we go.
This looks good.
And the nice thing is, you know, you go through the layers of flavor on this. We have the red pepper flake in here for a little bit of heat. Then you've got your kielbasa that gives you the smoky flavor. Then you have the crunch from the cabbage. You have the slightly bitter edge to the cabbage. You have the carrots, which give you a little bit of sweet.
Right.
You've got your tang from the mustard and the apple cider vinegar.
And your apple cider vinegar.
You've got the sweetness from the onions because you cooked those down.
Right.
So you've got a lot of yin and yang going on in here. So at this point, if it winds up being just a little bit too much tang from that apple cider vinegar, you try it.
So we're gonna taste before we adjust.
Okay, and you see what you think.
Alrighty. Oh, that's good.
So if that's too tangy, then you just take some honey.
It has some tang, and I like this, but let's actually try it with a little more honey in there.
So start with just a tablespoon.
And
with the soup being warm, it's gonna mix right in nicely. And also by adding the honey at the end like this, you're not cooking the honey, so you're not losing a lot of the benefits of the honey.
You're retaining the nutrients in there, so you're getting a very healthy, along with a very delicious soup.
See how that backs off, that tang, just a little bit.
It's
But
delicious.
it doesn't make it too sweet.
No.
It doesn't make it a sweet soup because you have so many savory flavors in there, but it does take the edge off the tang.
You get the savory and the smoke of the meat. Then, like you just said, the sweet of the carrot. That cabbage is just al dente. That's actually a perfect way to describe that.
And if you think about it, all of these ingredients you usually have. You might have to buy the kielbasa, but you probably will have carrots. You'll probably have some onion. You're gonna get cabbage in your CSA share. We're looking at apple cider vinegar, mustard, olive oil, garlic, salt, pepper, red pepper flake.
Staples.
These are all pantry staples, and it's also a chop and drop. So you could actually do this the night before, have everything cut up in Ziploc bags, and then come home. This soup actually took, by the time cooking time is 30 minutes.
That's incredible.
Is all it is. So
it's healthy.
It's definitely.
It's fast.
It's delicious.
And delicious, most
and
importantly.
It's rib sticking. I mean, this is a hearty soup.
This is a hearty stick to your ribs kind of
And that
thing.
would be a great broth if we had bread
Absolutely.
to dip bread in. So
that's good.
Try it.
I love this one.
Let us know if you like it.